So hey guys, today is a big day and it's an honor to introduce a Harvard student, not just a Harvard student but a Hatke Harvard student जिन्होंने एक different field choose की rather than हम Indians जो STEM field choose करते हैं जहाँ पे packages highest होता है. And not just that, she is the first one in the world to pursue music in Harvard as well as Berklee School of Music. So hi Avanti, can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction, Arnoor. It's so great to be here with you. My name is Avanti Nagral. I went to high school and middle school in Bombay, and I've lived half my life between the US and India. और जैसे कि आपने कहा, I've done a dual degree at Harvard and the Berklee College of Music. मैं Harvard में I was studying psychology and global health, and at Berklee studying music business. But it's a new program, and there's so many of these programs where, you know, like you said, थोड़ा सा हटके से, you're not just pursuing the classic STEM, but you can pursue more than one interest at one time, which is amazing.
Wow. My first question would be, how did you convince your parents? Like, जब भी हम मतलब बात करते हैं, like ever since we are like born, तो parents पहले सोच लेते हैं like you want to like become like doctor, engineer, STEM में मतलब जब आप 11th में जाते हो, parents सबसे पहले आपसे पूछते हैं you want to take non-medical, medical और commerce. तो उसमें music कभी आता ही नहीं है. They never ask you like do you want to do like filming or music. So how did you take your first step into music?
So I'll tell you the music journey and then the parents' journey as well. So my music journey actually has a lot to do with my family. When I grew up in the US, my dad, who immigrated to the US for his master's, he did a master's in CS, he used to play tabla and he used to teach tabla on the side to make extra money. So it was always a side passion of his. And my mom was pretty spiritual, so I grew up doing a lot of bhajans and, you know, things like that. And my dad would play tabla at these events. I'd sit in his lap. And so it became this really cute, you know, young passion. And I started learning the piano. And then when I moved to India, I started training in Hindustani classical music. So there'd always been वो music का जो माहौल होता है ना घर पे, there was always a support of it being a passion. It was not necessarily कि वो कह रहे थे at 6 years old, oh, you will be a singer. No, not at all. What they were saying is, you will do this because they saw that I had a genuine passion, a genuine talent and interest. So I'm very grateful to them for supporting me, you know, with that interest. And then as time went on, I did all of these, you know, inter-school competitions जो होते हैं ना हमारे वो school के बीच में and everything. So I did a lot of those here. And then I also did some professional theater, which we can talk about. And so I had a lot of experience in, of course, the Indian style of music, in the classical space, in the Broadway thoda sa style. I went to Christian high school, so that style. So music has always been a part of my life, but I'll share how it became a career in a short while. But on the parental side, right, I think, you know, I'd been very grateful to have their support early on. But we have a lot of our parents. I have so many friends who did dance, music, art, whatever when they were little, but today no longer do it and never pursue that in their university degree, right? Because it always became a hobby. It always became a passion. It was never a profession. I think the doctor, lawyer, engineer jo aapne kaha, I think my parents were the first generation. Both of their sets of parents were doctors. So they both ran away from the doctor field because they said that they didn't want to be in that. My dad is in the software and the IT and business space. And my mom is in the yoga therapy space. So they were both, you know, in slightly different fields, but very early on always valued education. To them, they were supportive of anything I wanted to do, but to them, education was important because we've been raised in our culture कि जब अच्छा degree मिलेगा, अच्छा education मिलेगा, you can do anything you want in life, right? That becomes your safety net to do whatever you want. Yeah. So when I decided that I wanted to do music more seriously, I sat them down and I had to explain to them that, you know, this is not just a passion for me. This is something that maybe will become a profession. I don't know, but I want to use the opportunity to use my education in pursuing both, not just one field, not just trying to do pre-med or, you know, the standard just psychology and brain science, but trying to figure out how I can pursue both. And I'd found out about this dual degree program, and I can tell you about, you know, how to get in. But the main thing that I had to sit them down was to say that this is really important to me, and I don't know how it's going to pan out. I'm going to try it out. We'll see. I have this educational opportunity that will also supplement that, right? So I'm going to be learning with world-class people, and I had to professionalize it. I think the issue for a lot of Indian parents is that when they think of these creative side careers, right? They think of music, art, dance, whatever it might be, even being an influencer, whatever it might be. To them, it seems like a hobby or a passion because it's not been professionalized. They don't understand कि उसके पीछे क्या business चीज जाता है, right? What is the business behind it? What are all the other aspects that go into it? So the more we can provide. I almost had a business plan for my parents, and I said, look, these are the things, and this is what I want to do. We'll see how it happens, but I would love your full support.
Amazing. Now the most important question would be, let's say एक student को 9th 10th या 11th में एक dream उठता है that he want to become an actor or like a singer. So what should be the first step ताकि he can get into Harvard as well as make it or convert it into a successful career?
I mean, well, I think if you want to be an actor or singer, your first intention should not necessarily be getting into Harvard. But if education is important to you and you want to go to a top school in the US, I would say there's so many opportunities now for you to do these dual degree programs, right? So for example, Harvard and Berkeley, and I can talk about that process a little bit, is one that, you get a bachelor's at Harvard and you get a master's at Berkeley. But there's also Brown and RISD, Brown and the Rhode Island School of Design, where you get a undergrad at Brown and then you get a master's at RISD and you can do something in the art space. And there's countless examples. Columbia and Juilliard also have a program. So there are these options for what I like to call creatives with intellectual passions or intellectuals with creative passions. People who want to be academically strong, but also have huge creative pursuits and maybe want to take that professional. I think that if you're interested in these spaces, the more you do it, the more you'll learn to love it and understand what it is for you. I am not saying that in order to be an actor or a singer or anything in the creative field that you have to have a formal education. In fact, many would argue that you don't. And I know that going to Harvard has actually worked against me sometimes in the music industry because logo ko lagta hai that you're either very high maintenance or high standard, or you're too intellectual and educated to understand the pulse of a consumer, right? So it's really interesting. I hear both, right? At Harvard, some people are like, "Ye music stuff kya hai?" In the music industry, they're like, "Why did you go to such a hard college? I don't understand." So you get both perspectives. But what I would say is, no matter what it is that you love to do, cultivate that passion and really look into yourself and understand what that is. It may come at the age of 15, it may come at the age of 25 or 30, whatever it is. But if you don't put yourself out there to try to find what is meaningful to you, you're doing yourself a disservice. If you are doing something, if you're singing in the school choir, let's say, just because you think it looks good on your resume, people will see through that. So don't use that as a tactic. Do something because you genuinely love it, and then the way you talk about it and the way other people talk about you and that thing will make a huge difference.
Wow. That's super inspiring to know. So that means आप किसी भी background से हो, you can definitely make a step forward, and Harvard is not necessary, but it can definitely definitely give you some advantage and a disadvantage to make your first step forward to convert it to a good career. So आप ये बताना कि like in US, do you think US is the best country to like pursue anything hatke like music, or like you can go anywhere?
I would have said that was true maybe 10 to 15 years ago because of the options, right? So with the Harvard and Berkeley is one of the top music schools in the world, and it has people from all around the world. And the application process for Berkeley was very different, where you had to audition. It was less based on your academics and scores. And so you had to both be good academically and audition, and then you'll get into this program. But the thing about the US, right, because it created some of these industries and infrastructures, I would say 10 to 15 years ago, the answer would be yes. Today, I disagree. Today, I think there are so many opportunities in so many other parts of the world. For example, Singapore has some excellent schools for the creative and performing arts, whether it's a La Salle or whether it's so many other places and spaces. The UK and other places. Also, India, there's so many opportunities today. Obviously, it's harder to find, but what I would say is that in India, there's a huge opportunity to create that. So if somebody, say, goes to Berkeley or goes to Harvard, wherever they go, and they come back to India, they have so much opportunity of bringing that knowledge back and bringing that world-class information and artistry back and building something really meaningful. Like if you live in Bombay, for example, there are schools like the True School of Music, which are amazing and doing really incredible things. There's Whistling Woods Academy if you're interested in film, and there's so many other things. I think the thing about a Hatke career, right, no matter what it is you just have to do it. So whether you decide to do it in terms of you go down the educational path and you build up a network that way, or whether you say, "Main karne hi wali hu," and you start auditioning, you start doing whatever it is you need to do, no path is better than the other. They're just different, and they'll lead you to different outcomes in the same journey.
Wow, mind-blowing. Now let's get started with your application process. So आपने कब सोचा, when did it click in your mind that you want to specially study in the US and abroad? So that was it in 9th, 10th or 11th?
I think it was definitely very early on. Because I'd grown up in the US, I had that already exposure. So for me, that was really important. And not to say that Indian colleges aren't amazing. I think they're incredible. And I may have even considered going to a college here if I wanted to do something very linear. Like if I wanted to do engineering fully or if I wanted to do medicine, it might have made more sense. But I very early on knew that I wanted to do something that was interdisciplinary, and mujhe laga ki I would only get that opportunity if I went to a liberal arts college, if I had that, breadth and that opportunity. That's why I didn't even consider the UK, because the UK is very similar to India, where it's just single pointed, one focus. So 11th and 12th May, I took science. I did the science stream, and instead of physics, however, I took psychology. So I did Psych CMB, and I did the ISC system. I went to a school called Cathedral and John Connon, which is in Bombay. And for me, it was really interesting because, of course, while I was a good student and, all of the academic markers, and I did a lot of work in the space of global health because that was very important to me. Like I said, I come from a family of doctors. All my grandparents are doctors, but I also have had a lot of health issues in my life. And I know that I've been fortunate enough to have access to care in a way that many people don't. So for me, it was really, really important to be able to do work in that space, and whether that was in the space of organ donation or mental health or sexual health or emergency care and medicine. And I did a lot of that growing up. And so anyway, while all of this was going on and all the usual studying things, and I can tell you about the application, music was still a huge part of my life. When I was about 15 or 16, I started doing a lot of professional theater, and I would be the featured singer in a lot of acts in India and across Mumbai. And there was always this nagging feeling in me ki, awaaz to hai, and I believe that these types of things are a gift or something that not everybody has the opportunity to be good at what you're an excellent, engineer, you're amazing at what you do, and not everybody has that gift, right? So I think that I knew I would always regret it. So there's this little voice inside me that says, kuch to karna chahiye, kuch to karna chahiye. So when I got into Harvard early in the December of 2014. I remember the day I got in, the day after, I sat my parents down and I said, so I would like to take a gap year. And they're like, ye kya hai? Gap year kya hai? Uska matlab kya hai? And so gap years were not a common thing at that time in India, right? People didn't understand. But I explained to them that, look, all of this stuff is happening in music and theater. I've been performing at these places, but I really, really, really want to take the time to give it a chance to understand, what is this? Is this a viable career? Will I have the option? And, I said, with your blessing and support, if you are okay with me staying at home for this year and, just really trying to dive deep into that, that would mean the world. So they agreed for 3 reasons. One, they know that I'm very stubborn and hardworking, and when I put my mind to something, I will do it. So they knew that at least she's committed. The second is, and of course, Harvard said yes, because Harvard, you can defer your admission. I basically called them and said, hey, I'd like to come next year. And they said, that's fine. The second is I'd landed the lead role in a Broadway show reproduction, which was happening in India, of this show called Agnes of God. So, we had that as a big project to happen that year. There were many other things that happened that year, but that was like a big project. And the third is I was doing research with this professor from Harvard Medical School in India. So they were like, acha, to logo ko bata sakte hain ki this is what she's doing. She's doing health research and ye music side pe kar rahi hai. Because they still didn't think it was, a thing. But I am so grateful that I had that whole year as an opportunity, because I had the opportunity to perform, write, create, and really get to know myself and music's place in my world. And I can talk more about that too.
So, aap ye batana, what do you think, what was unique in your profile, or what do you think got you into Harvard? Was it the passion for music? Was it like you did a lot of sports or athletics, or what do you think it was?
So I think, with these schools, it's so hard, because for every 1,600 students they take, there's 1,600 more who've applied who are equally amazing. I think the main thing about the college process is a couple things. One is, if you treat college as the end destination, you are never going to be authentically representing who you are. What I mean by that is, a lot of people will do a special college project to get into college. Ki abhi 11th standard hua hai, to ye project karna hai, so I can get in. But instead, if you treat your whole life as this long runway and you do things that you actually believe in and are actually meaningful to you, college will become one step along the journey. And so it won't feel like you're doing something just for college. And, they will, the college admissions officers are smart. They've been doing this for years and years and years. So they can see through when somebody does something just for college. So I think one of the biggest things for me, in addition to being, a good student, and I can share my scores if you're interested, but all of those baseline things were set. The things that I talk about today still about music and global health, I did at that age, right? I was very passionate about these spaces. I did a lot of campaigns and work in global health. And in fact, I used to seed fund those with my earnings as an artist. So all the stuff I did in theater and music, I would use that money to fund these campaigns. And those types of things, I think, spoke volumes, probably. The other thing that I think is very important, which people don't realize, is at the end of the day, your application is only 10 pages. If you print it out, it's just 10 pages on a paper. And so it's really hard to see the human person and the values of a human being through that. So even if you've done all these amazing things, and don't get me wrong, I also did Model UN, I had 7 positions in school. So all of these things were a given. But I think what really differentiated, because I spoke to my admissions officer afterwards, she said, the way in which people spoke about you and the way in which your story came together is what made it stand out. And what she meant by that is that she thought that all my recommendations were stellar. And not just, oh, she's a good student, oh, she's a nice person. I think they were able to talk in depth about what was meaningful and passionate to me, which was, a corroboration of what I was showing for myself. So that's one thing. And the other is your essay is the only other space you can really share your own story. So just being authentic to your journey. And honestly, they don't care about what it is that you do, but what they do care about is whatever you choose to do, you've taken it to another level. And you've tried to be, the best you can be and have the most meaningful impact you can have in that.
Mind-blowing. So my final question would be, in this process, do you think which schools all over the world, like Singapore or US or UK, which give the maximum amount of scholarship for these Hatke majors?
It's a great question.
And do you think there's good scope or good possibility of getting financial aid at the schools you name, like Columbia, ho gaya, Berkeley plus Harvard, or all these dual majors, dual degrees?
Yes. So the way it works, right? So the Harvard Berkeley dual degree, you don't pay double tuition. That would be insane because that would be a lot of money. Basically, for the first 4 years, Harvard becomes your primary school. So during that time, you pay the standard Harvard tuition, and then there's basically, depending on the program, it's either 2,000 or 4,000 extra for the Berkeley stuff. And all of these programs are similar. I would say that, of course, if you're going just for a creative major, let's say you're going just to Berkeley or just to, NYU Tisch or any of these schools that we've heard of, it is a little bit harder to get financial aid than it is at these other schools. However, you can get a lot more external scholarships. So for example, at Berkeley, there is a scholarship called the A.R. Rahman Scholarship, which endows one kid student from India every single year to go there and study full ride for all 4 years. At NYU Tisch, there are similar other ones. But what I found is you can apply for a lot of independent artist grant funds, which will help support your education in a way that you cannot for a liberal arts college. Like for me at Harvard, right, any aid that we got was from the financial aid office, but the rest of it came from like merit scholarship, all of that. Those things you can't apply very much to your liberal arts education because sab log jo wahan pe hain, they're all coming from a merit background, in the academic sense. But if I use that same scholarship at just Berkeley, it would have gone a lot further. So if you're somebody who has multiple sides to you, there is opportunity, there is scope. And I would say in terms of the return on investment, right? That's the biggest question people have. Logo ko lagta hai ki STEM ke baad acha job milega. Therefore, it's a big return on investment. In these fields, it's so risky that your return on investment is not immediate, right? It's not like you're going to go to one of these schools and then immediately become like the biggest artist in the world, because a lot of it is chance. So there's 2 paths. One is you can either do a more business side to the creative space, right? So whether that's in the music world, working at a label, working in the music business as a manager or whatever it might be, or as an actor, being an agent, working at one of these larger event spaces. Or you can take a chance on yourself and say, these are the experiences I have, and this is how I want to apply it toward the education, toward this craft, and just be enterprising. I think the biggest thing that people forget, and I would say this about you too, Harun, it's amazing to see what you're doing with your YouTube channel, because tell me if you agree with me, today to do anything enterprising in the creative space, right? Running a YouTube channel takes a lot of creative direction. I'm sure you have to think about actively storyboard what you're doing and the ideas. You are basically running a startup, but the difference is the startup is yourself, and all of these other things become the ancillary products, right? So for me, I am both the brand, the product, and the entrepreneur, because my music itself is the product, but I myself am a brand, our social media presences, for example, and you are also an entrepreneur. So all of these learnings you can apply to absolutely anything. And the more enterprising you are, the better. So I guess, as somebody who's gone through this higher education system, it is not necessary to have these things. If you have the opportunity to, if you have the support to, if you feel so inclined to, I would say go for it, because it is an amazing opportunity to meet people from different backgrounds in the world. And, I've seen a lot of your YouTube videos, and you talk about that experience, right? Meeting people who are very different from you. But from the soul, is going to a Harvard or a Berkeley or a Tisch or any of these schools that we're talking about going to make me a better creative entrepreneur? The answer is no, as much as, as hard as it sounds. And I think, honestly, aaj ke zamane mein, with the whole corona situation, things are drastically changing in the education space. So I would say, whatever it is that you want to do, if you want to have a formal education, that's fine. But no matter what it is in life, you should always be a lifelong learner. Because the more you decide you want to learn, no matter what you're doing, the better you'll be at your craft, whether it might be in a more, traditional field like engineering or a more Hatke field like dance. And you'll always find that space for yourself.
I definitely agree to your point. No matter you go to a school or not, you really have to be creative at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And what's your final career goal? Do you want to be like an individual, like a singer, or you want to work for like let's say a music company, or what would be your goal?
That's an amazing and that's a very common question. Log kehte ki beta ab kya? What's next? I think having this education background is a safety net, right? Because I can always get a job. So for me, that's not my first priority. My first priority is how do I, like you said, become an individual singer, artist, entrepreneur. And so what that looks like for me very tangibly is, pursuing a full-time career in the musical arts, whether that's as a recording artist, singer. And there's so many ways that you can build that out as a career, right? It's very difficult, but you can. And at the same time, continuing my passion in the global health space by using my creative and entrepreneurial expertise to do a lot of work in this space, whether that means creating content that is very socially inspired and creates a lot of social impact, whether that means, eventually diversifying into the nonprofit space, into the social business space. I think when you build a brand out of yourself and you pursue something, if you always, like you said, if you're always creative and thinking, you can do a lot. So no matter what it is, I see myself being self-employed in any capacity, basically.
Honestly, that's best. चाहे आप किसी भी 9 to 5 employee को देख लो, हर कोई at the end of the day they want to get the right कि मन किया काम किया या मन किया नहीं किया. So that's a great flexibility you get, right?
Totally. And honestly, even if you're a 9 to 5 employee, there's nothing wrong with that. We all seek different things in life. For somebody, stability might be very important for multiple reasons, as their personality, family obligation, whatever it is. No matter what you're doing, I think we all have an enterprising spirit within us. So even if you're at a 9 to 5 job, find something that drives you and that is your passion. Look at Harnoor. What you're doing is amazing. No, it's crazy, right? Like this YouTube channel, it takes a lot of work. I know. And you know this for a fact, but you have a full-time job and you're still at it. So whether you decide that your creative passion is your main hustle or your side hustle, find something that inspires you, whether that's your work itself or something around that, and you'll always feel happy.
Absolutely. And honestly, you have a great YouTube channel too. I forgot about that. And if I will use your music, the copyright claim to nahi lagega, strike to nahi lagegi.
नहीं वो whitelist कर दूंगी मैं.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. And I would definitely recommend all of you to check out her music and her music channel. And she has wonderful content on her channel. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Harnoor, and thank you so much for doing this interview. I had a beautiful time. And if anybody watching has any questions about these dual degree programs or anything, whether it's education in the US or being a Hatke career person, feel free to ask me. And of course, goes without saying, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, comment, hit the bell notification for Harnoor's channel, Sing in USA.
Also for Avanti Nagral's channel.
Thank you. And of course, thank you so much for having me, Harnoor.
It was a pleasure being with you as well. Perfect.
you.